Managed funds, index funds, ETFs. Most Aussie investors have heard of all three. A lot of them are invested in at least one of them right now. But if you ask most people to explain the actual difference between them, many couldn't tell you. And that matters because the structure you invest through affects what you pay in fees, how easily you can buy and sell, how much visibility you have over what you actually own, taxes, and ultimately how much money you end up with. So today I want to clear it up properly. We're actually comparing four things, not three. Managed funds, unlisted index funds, index ETFs, and active ETFs. But we're going to compare everything you need to know about them. Fees, whether they're listed on the ASX, whether you can trade them during market hours, minimum investment, holdings transparency, tax efficiency, and returns. By the end, you'll understand exactly what each one is, how they're different, and why Aussie investors have been shifting their money heavily in one direction, and what this means for you. But first, we need to understand why funds exist. So let's say you put all of your money into one share, say BHP. In that case, the fate of your portfolio depends entirely on BHP. If it does well, great. But if it falls 50%, your portfolio falls 50% too. Diversification means spreading your money across many companies instead. So one bad investment has less power to wreck your overall result. That's really the big idea behind funds. They let you diversify your money into companies a lot easier with much lower fees than you were able to do yourself. So managed funds came first. They've been around for decades, and the idea is simple. Pool your money with other investors, hand it to a professional fund manager, and let them do the work managing a bunch of different shares. The problem was the fees were often too expensive. So Jack Bogle at Vanguard popularized the index fund. Instead of paying a manager to pick stocks, an index fund simply tracks a market index, like the S&P 500, by holding the same companies in the same proportions. The goal isn't to beat the market, but to match it as closely as possible while giving you broad diversification and keeping costs low. Index funds are market cap weighted, meaning larger companies make up a bigger share of the fund. Because there's no active stock picking team, they're much cheaper to run, and those savings show up as lower fees. If the market goes up, the fund should go up by a similar amount, minus small fees and minor tracking differences. Wall Street initially dismissed this approach as Bogle's folly, but over time the data proved otherwise. Most active managers have underperformed the index after fees over the long term. But there was still a problem. These funds were hard to access. Most were unlisted, which meant paperwork, minimum investment amounts, and less convenience. So then ETFs arrives to fix all that. In 1993 in the US and 2001 in Australia. They use the same pooled fund idea as index funds, but now you could buy and sell them on the stock exchange like a normal share. Suddenly, low-cost diversified investing became much easier to access. And then came active ETFs, bringing things full circle. Same ETF structure, but now with active fund managers picking stocks. So these four products are all related. They all pool investor money, but they solve the investing problem in very different ways. And those differences matter a lot in practice. The easiest way to think about it is there are two separate choices. First, how the fund invests, either active, where a manager picks stocks, or index, where it tracks the market. Second, how you buy it, either a managed fund, which is unlisted, or an ETF, which you can buy on the stock exchange, like a share. But there is now some crossover because in recent years, more active managers have started using the ETF structure as well. So now you can get both index funds and actively managed funds in ETF form, with the same convenience that made ETFs popular in the first place. Now let's compare them. Part 2, ETFs versus index funds versus managed funds. First is fees, and this matters more than most people realize because fees directly eat into your returns over time. Traditional managed funds are usually the most expensive. Index ETFs are typically the cheapest, and active ETFs sit in the middle. More expensive than index ETFs, but generally still cheaper than traditional managed funds. Managed funds and unlisted index funds aren't available on the ASX, which makes them less practical to most Australian investors. ETFs, on the other hand, trade on the ASX, and just like shares, you can buy and sell them during market hours with much lower minimum investments, so they're far easier to access for most people. Then there's transparency, which is basically how often you can see what's inside the fund, the actual investments you own. Managed funds and unlisted index funds usually update quarterly, often with a delay. Index ETFs are much more transparent, typically showing holdings daily or monthly. And active ETFs vary. Some update frequently, others still have a delay depending on the provider. Next is taxes. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into tax here because tax is really beyond the scope of this video, but it's important to know the that different fund structures can create different tax outcomes in Australia. In simple terms, traditional managed funds can sometimes pass capital gains onto investors, even if you personally didn't sell anything. Unlisted index funds are usually a bit better because they tend to trade less. And ETFs are often seen as more tax efficient because their structure can reduce how much other people buying and selling in the fund affects you. Next is active management. And as I explained before, index funds simply follow a set of rules to track the market, while active funds have a manager actively making decisions to try and outperform it. So now you understand the differences, we need to dive deeper into the two most important parts: fees and returns. So a big takeaway here is that fees have gotten much lower over time. This is probably the biggest shift across all four eras. What investors used to pay versus what you pay today is not even close. If you look at the ETFs on the ASX right now, you can access the entire Australian market or the S&P 500 for around 0.4% to 0.7% per year. Funds like A200, IVV, VAS, they're all sitting in that range. Even global exposure, things like VGS or BGBL that invest in the US, UK, Japan, Germany, and more are still under 0.2%. And if you go active ETFs, it jumps to around 0.3% up to 1.3% plus, depending on the ETF. But the key point is that if you buy a typical Australian managed fund, you're paying around 1.5% per year in fees. Compare that to something like the A200 at 0.04%. That's roughly 37 times cheaper for basically the same market exposure. And this isn't just a small difference because fees compound. If you invest $100,000 for 20 years at 8% return, in a low-cost ETF like VAS, you'll end up with around $450,000. In an active ETF, you might end up somewhere in the middle between $380,000 to $410,000. And in a typical managed fund, that's closer to $340,000. That's tens of thousands, even over $100,000 gone, not because the market performed worse, but because of fees. And that right there is why I recommend ETFs over the other options. Now, if you want to know specifically which ETFs I think are worth looking at right now, that is exactly what I cover every week in my newsletter at etfadviser.com.au. The paid version includes a model portfolio that is up over 10% since June 2025, compared to the ASX only up 4.28%. But there's a 4-week free trial. Try it in the link below. Now let's see which funds Aussies are actually putting their money into. Part 4, where Australians' money is going. So Aussie investors are starting to vote with their wallets. In Australia, ETF assets have exploded from around 85 billion in 2020 to over 330 billion by the end of 2025. And in 2025 alone, a record 53 billion flowed into ETFs. BetaShares is now forecasting the industry will pass 400 billion in 2026. And most of that money isn't going into active strategies. Around 74% of these inflows, so nearly $40 billion, went into passive index ETFs. Active ETFs had net outflows for 3 consecutive years before returning to positive flows in 2025. That's the real shift. And you can see the other side of the trade happening at the same time. Traditional managed funds are shrinking. Some of the biggest names in Australian funds management are seeing billions in outflows. Across the industry, active funds are losing share, now making up 63% of total assets and falling every year. Meanwhile, passive funds have had positive inflows in almost every single quarter over the past 6 years. In 2025, passive strategies attracted 7.7 billion in Q4 alone versus just 2.5 billion for active. That's more than triple. Investors are moving away from high-fee, unlisted managed investment funds and into low-fee listed ETFs. And even the active managers can see it. That's why firms like Magellan, Airlie, and Hyperion have started launching ETFs themselves. The direction is clear. Investors are moving away from high-fee, unlisted managed funds toward lower-cost listed ETFs. And rather than resisting that shift, many active managers are adopting the ETF structure as a way to stay relevant. So what does this actually mean for you? Each stage of investing basically solved a problem the previous one couldn't. Managed funds gave people diversification for the first time, but you paid for it heavily. Then index funds came along and proved something important. You don't need expensive stock picking to get good results, but they were still awkward to access. Then ETFs fixed that. They took index funds and put them on the stock exchange. So now they're cheap, easy to buy, and far more transparent. And more recently, active ETFs brought things full circle. Active managers now use the same structure, but instead of charging high fees behind closed doors, they're exposed to the market like everyone else. So the market decides who's actually worth paying for. In the end, ETFs are the clear winner for ordinary Aussies. They combine low fees, easy access, strong transparency, and more tax-efficient structure than older fund types. Now, if you're starting out, you can keep it very simple. Something like A200 for Australian shares and BGBL for global shares. That's essentially Jack Bogle's original idea. Just own the entire market, but now in the most efficient form that's ever existed. Now, if you do want active management, you can still get it through ETFs, but the standard is much higher. If an active manager is charging 5 to 20 times more than an index fund, they need to consistently outperform to justify it. And historically, over a 15-year period, around 90% don't, but 10% do. Now, if you want insider information about which active ETFs are beating the market, check out the link below and sign up to my newsletter. Our model portfolio is up 10.09% since June 2025, compared to the ASX, which is up less than half that at only 4.29%. And I'm not doing anything special. I'm just tracking which ETFs and themes are moving from base to trend and buying them accordingly. There's 20% off yearly subscriptions and a 4-week free trial. Click the link below. And remember, always follow the trend.